So I've just finished filming the review of my friend Tony's Aston Vantage V8S. And I thought it would be a good opportunity, as we've got these two cars together, to maybe talk very quickly about the key differences between the two. Because, as it happens, if you've got somewhere between 60 to 70,000 pounds and you need to hide it very quickly in a British sports car, these two should probably be top of your list. Now, start with the obvious. This one has got less seats than this one, but this is a 2+2, which means you'll only get small people in the back. So if that's not a concern to you, obviously that levels the playing field. Now, you are going to be able to pick up a considerably newer Evora than you are a V8 Vantage S for the same money. In fact, you can probably buy a brand new 400 if you haggle with your dealer for the prices that some dealers are asking for the V8 Vantage. And in terms of which car is going to cost you more to run, the Aston is definitely going to be more expensive. We calculated that Tony is using a considerable amount more fuel than I do. I think his tax is probably also higher than mine. How much is your tax, Tony? £515 a year, vehicle excise duty. Obviously, if you're not in the UK, you don't care. Evora 400, £290 a year after the first year. Love you too, dear. So, interior-wise, the Lotus is more focused. I'm not just being kind and saying cheap. Yes, it is a cheaper interior, but you sit considerably more forwards, or you certainly feel like you sit a lot more forwards in the Lotus, and it's more all about the road and all about the drive. The Aston, you feel like you're sat kind of like that, and you get more of this interior, which is, to be honest, very nicely put together and very nicely done, as you would of course expect from an Aston Martin. There are some bits of carbon fibre and things standard on the Aston. Servicing is going to be similar, again, with the edge probably going to the Lotus. It's got less cylinders and it's Toyota derived, and I have seen Aston Martin dealer labour rates. To drive, they are, again, similar, but also worlds apart. Yes, am I confused myself? Very probably. We did some maths earlier, and I worked out that the Lotus has 300 kilos less over the front axle. That is a huge amount. The car weighs about 200 odd kilos less to begin with, and the Lotus has 62% rearward weight distribution versus 50-50 for the Aston. You can feel every single one of those kilos when you drive the two. That's not to say the Aston is a bad drive. In fact, the steering rack, the quickness of it, and the nice sensation through the wheel is quite familiar to a Lotus owner, and they share similar technology. In fact, if you lift the lid of an early Aston Vantage, the 4.3 litre, you will see on the strut towers here a little red bead of glue, and if you lift the carpet on the Evora, you will see the exact same glue. Numbers wise, if that's sort of what you care about, they are both pretty much neck and neck. You have 430 horsepower here, 400 horsepower here, 360 pound-foot of torque versus 302, but then you have about 1600 and something kilos versus 1400-ish, so there's a considerable difference there. The Aston has a few nice details, like these doors that open sort of upwards, whereas as the Lotus is open normally. They're both reasonably practical. The Aston has a larger boot than the Lotus, not by much, mind you, but of course the Lotus counters by having either back seats or an extravagantly large leather-lined parcel shelf, if you want to see it that way. This has a V8 and this has a supercharged V6. Again, that may or may not mean anything to you. And they both sound very, very nice. The Aston, if you think it's too quiet, you can pull a fuse from it and the exhaust valve will be stuck permanently open, and most owners do choose to do that. So there you have it, a very, very quick summary of these two very nice British cars. Well, you know which one I had and you know which one Tony had, and frankly, they're great. What's also particularly nice about both of them is if you want a car that's maybe going to be your only car and you can enjoy it as a back road blaster on a sunny Sunday, but you've also got to endure the slog on the M25 on Monday, both of these will happily do that, with the Lotus maybe being slightly better at the back roads and the Aston being a nicer place to be when you are parked on the M25 and National Car Park. So abroad, not much to choose between them. The Aston has a lot more options and things you can choose from. The Lotus is a bit easier to decipher spec-wise. Really, if you are hoping I was going to bring you to any sort of conclusion, I'm afraid I'm going to have to disappoint. But you would not be disappointed with either of them. And the interesting thing is that both Tony and I agree that they are different enough so that if you are an incredibly lucky sod and you could have a driveway that looked a bit like this, you wouldn't feel like you'd got two versions of the same thing, okay? They are both stunning and give me some sort of hope about the state of the British car industry. So there you go. Thanks very much, guys. Speak to you soon.